The porcelain sink was painted with crimson droplets, each one falling from Sophia Mitchell's trembling knuckles like tiny prayers answered too violently. Her chest heaved with controlled breaths as she gripped the cold edge, fighting the adrenaline that still coursed through her veins like liquid fire. Behind her, Connor Richardson groaned on the bathroom floor, his designer polo shirt torn at the collar, his perfectly styled blonde hair now matted with sweat and shame. "I told you," Sophia's voice came out steady despite the earthquake in her chest. "Don't touch me. Before I tell you how a 17-year-old honor student ended up here. Quick thank you for watching. If this story of courage moves you, please hit that like button to help others find it too. And if you want to support more stories that matter, consider hitting the thanks button below. Every bit helps me share these powerful moments. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. Sometimes knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. Now, let me take you back 3 hours to when everything changed. 3 hours earlier, the advanced calculus classroom at Preston Heights Academy had been a different kind of battlefield. Sophia stood at the whiteboard, her neat handwriting flowing across the surface as she solved the problem that had stumped everyone else, including their teacher, Mr. Brennan. The chalk moved with precision, each step of the derivation building toward an elegant solution that made mathematical poetry out of chaos. "Excellent work, Sophia," Mr. Brennan beamed, his thick glasses reflecting the fluorescent lights. "This is exactly the kind of thinking that MIT looks for in their applicants." From the back row, Connor Richardson's jaw tightened. The golden boy of Preston Heights, quarterback of the varsity team, son of school board president Patricia Richardson, had just been outshone by the scholarship kid from the South Side. Again. His best friends Jake Morrison and Lucas Bennett exchanged glances, recognizing the storm brewing behind Connor's ice-blue eyes. "Whatever," Connor muttered, loud enough for the class to hear. "Some of us have actual talent, instead of just being diversity quotas." The classroom fell silent. Sophia's hand paused mid-motion on the board, but she didn't turn around. She'd heard worse. She'd endured worse. Her father David had taught her that the best response to ignorance was excellence, and she had 3 more problems to solve. "Mr. Richardson," Mr. Brennan's voice carried a warning. "See me after class." But Connor wasn't listening. He was already whispering with Jake and Lucas, their heads bent together like conspirators planning a coup, which, in a way, they were. Sophia finished the problems, returned to her seat, and pulled out her phone to check the time. 2:45. Boxing practice started at 4, and she couldn't be late. Coach Williams was considering her for the regional Golden Gloves tournament, and every session counted. The notification screen showed 3 messages from her dad, probably reminding her about dinner with her grandparents tonight. She smiled despite the tension still hanging in the air. David Mitchell worried too much, but after losing her mother to cancer 5 years ago, she understood why he held on so tight. The bell rang, and students began filing out. Sophia packed her things methodically, noting how Connor lingered by the door with his crew. She'd have to take the long way to her locker, avoid the confrontation that his posture promised. It wasn't fear that motivated her caution. It was wisdom. "Choose your battles," her father always said. "Save your energy for the ones that matter." But Connor had different plans. As Sophia reached for her backpack, her phone suddenly vanished from the desk. She looked up to find Lucas holding it, grinning like he'd just scored a touchdown. "Give it back," Sophia said quietly. "Relax." Lucas tossed the phone to Jake, who caught it with practiced ease. Just want to see what kind of apps diversity admits use. Probably have a special calculator that gives you extra points. Right. I said give it back. Sophia's voice remained level, but something shifted in her stance. Her weight distributed evenly between both feet. Her shoulders squared. 3 years of boxing training whispered in her muscle memory, but she pushed it down. Not here. Not worth it. Connor stepped forward, his 6'2" frame trying to use height as intimidation. You know what your problem is? Mitchell, you don't know your place. Coming here on your little charity scholarship, making the rest of us look bad. That ends today. The only thing ending today is this conversation. Sophia held out her hand. My phone, now. Jake was typing something, his fingers flying across the screen. Oh, this is perfect. Look, she's got Ryan Chen in her contacts. You crushing on Ryan. Sophia, want me to send him a little message? Ryan Chen, captain of the debate team, early admission to Harvard. And yes, the subject of a crush Sophia would never admit to anyone. Her cheeks burned, but she kept her expression neutral. That's invasion of privacy. You're literally committing a crime right now. Crime? Connor laughed. My mom owns this school. My dad owns half the city council. You think anyone's going to care about your little phone? More typing from Jake. Then a satisfied smirk. Sent. What did you do? Just arranged a little meeting. Ryan's going to meet you in the STM building after school. Room B12. Says it's urgent. Jake waggled the phone. Better not keep him waiting. Sophia lunged for the phone, but Connor caught her arm. His grip was firm, possessive, the kind of touch that spoke of entitlement rather than strength. For a moment, their eyes met, and Connor saw something there that made him let go. Something dangerous. Something that didn't belong in the eyes of a 17-year-old girl who was supposed to know her place. Don't touch me, Sophia said, and this time her voice carried an edge that made Lucas take a step back. Connor recovered his bravado quickly. Touchy. Aren't we? Maybe Ryan likes that. Guess you'll find out in... He checked his watch, a Rolex that cost more than Sophia's father made in 6 months. 45 minutes. They left her phone on the desk and walked out laughing. Sophia picked it up, saw the sent message to Ryan, and felt her stomach drop. The words were carefully crafted to sound like her, but desperate enough to ensure he'd show up. And when he did, he'd find what? An empty room. Or worse, she deleted the conversation. But the damage was done. Ryan had already seen it. Already replied with, Of course, I'll be there. Is everything okay? 45 minutes. Sophia made her way through the halls of Preston Heights, past the trophy cases filled with championships bought by Booster Club donations, past the college counseling office where students planned futures secured by family connections rather than merit. She loved learning, loved the teachers who actually cared, loved the friends she'd made among the scholarship kids and the rare wealthy students who saw beyond stereotypes. But moments like these reminded her that she was a visitor in their world, tolerated but never truly welcomed. Her phone buzzed. A text from her dad. Training session moved to 5. Coach Williams has a family emergency. You okay if I pick you up later? She typed back, All good. Might stay late to study anyway. Another buzz. Ryan, heading to B12 now. Your message sounded serious. Everything all right? Sophia's heart raced. She could text him back. Tell him it was a mistake. avoid whatever humiliation Connor had planned, but that might make things worse. Make her look unstable. Make Ryan think she was playing games. Better to show up, explain in person. Laugh it off as a technical glitch. The STEM building was newer than the rest of campus, funded by a tech billionaire alumnus who wanted future generations to have state-of-the-art facilities. It sat at the far end of campus, isolated from the main academic buildings by a stretch of manicured lawn and a parking lot. After 3 p.m., it was mostly empty, except for the robotics club and the odd student working on projects. Sophia's footsteps echoed in the empty hallway as she made her way to room B12. The afternoon sun slanted through tall windows, casting long shadows that seemed to reach for her feet. Something felt wrong. The air was too still, too quiet, like the building itself was holding its breath. Room B12 was at the end of the corridor, past the boys' bathroom and a janitor's closet. The door was slightly open, fluorescent lights spilling into the hallway. Sophia could hear voices inside, not Ryan's gentle tenor, but deeper. Familiar voices that made her stomach clench. She should turn around. Every instinct screamed danger. But Sophia Mitchell had never run from a fight in her life, and she wasn't about to start now. She pushed open the door. The room was empty, except for 3 figures lounging by the windows. Connor sat on a desk, legs swinging casually. Jake leaned against the whiteboard, phone in hand. Lucas stood by the door, which he promptly closed behind Sophia with a soft click that sounded like a trap springing shut. "Where's Ryan?" Sophia asked, though she already knew the answer. "Ryan's in the library," Connor said with a smile that belonged on a shark. "Studying for his AP physics test. Great student. That Ryan, unlike some people who need special advantages to compete. You texted him from my phone to cancel, didn't you?" "Jake's got skills," Connor confirmed. "Also changed your passcode while he was at it. Your birthday, really, that's basic security failure right there." Sophia assessed the situation with the same clarity she used in the ring. 3 opponents, 1 exit, no witnesses. Jake was already holding up his phone, and she could see herself reflected in the camera lens. "Smile," Jake said. "You're about to be famous." "What is this?" Connor slid off the desk, his movements deliberately casual. "This is an intervention. See, we've been talking. And we think you need a reality check. You walk around here like you own the place, showing off in class, making everyone else look bad. That's not how things work at Preston Heights." "I'm leaving." Sophia turned toward the door, but Lucas didn't move. "You're not going anywhere," Connor said. "Not until we have a little chat about respect, about knowing your place, about what happens when charity cases forget who's really in charge here." The live stream notification popped up on Jake's screen. "We're live. Boys, say hi to the internet." Sophia's blood ran cold. Whatever they had planned, they wanted an audience for it. She thought of her father, probably at his construction site, covered in dust and sweat, working to give her a better life. She thought of her boxing coach, who'd taken a chance on a skinny 12-year-old girl with anger issues and taught her to channel fury into discipline. She thought of every scholarship kid who would come after her, whose path would be easier or harder based on what happened in the next few minutes. 200 viewers already," Jake announced. "Told you Preston Heights drama gets clicks." Connor stepped closer. Close enough that Sophia could smell his expensive cologne mixed with the sour scent of entitlement. "You know what your problem is. You actually think you belong here. Think that just because you can solve some equations and throw some punches in a gym, you're equal to us. But you're not. You'll never be. And today, Everyone's going to see exactly what you really are. And what's that? Sophia kept her voice steady even as her hands instinctively curled into loose fists at her sides. Someone who needs to learn respect, Connor said. The hard way. The bathroom door behind them opened, and for a moment Sophia thought someone had come to help. But it was just another lacrosse player. Tommy Morrison, Jake's younger brother. He took one look at the scene, understood immediately, and grinned. Room for one more, the more the merrier, Connor said without taking his eyes off Sophia. Tommy, block the door. Don't let our guest leave until we're done teaching. 4 against 1 now. The odds were getting worse by the second. Sophia's phone buzzed in her pocket, but she didn't dare reach for it. Any sudden movement might trigger whatever violence was simmering beneath Connor's controlled facade. 300 viewers, Jake updated. Someone just shared it to the Preston Heights gossip page. This is blowing up. In the main building, the Parent-Teacher Association meeting was in full swing. The auditorium was packed with concerned parents, school board members, and faculty discussing the topic of the month, building a safe and inclusive environment for all students. Principal Garrett stood at the podium, his practiced smile masking the exhaustion of dealing with entitled parents and their untouchable children. Our anti-bullying initiatives have shown remarkable progress, he was saying. Clicking through a PowerPoint presentation filled with charts and graphs, incidents are down 30% from last year, and our peer mediation program has been particularly effective. In the third row, Michelle Roberts, the school counselor who actually cared about students rather than statistics, tried not to roll her eyes. She knew the numbers were manipulated, knew that most incidents went unreported because students had learned that justice at Preston Heights came with a price tag. But she also knew that speaking up would cost her job, and she couldn't help students if she wasn't here. Patricia Richardson sat in the front row, her designer suit impeccable, her expression one of practiced concern. As school board president, she had pushed hard for these feel-good initiatives that looked great on college applications and school rankings. The fact that her son Connor had been disciplined 3 times this year for behavior that would have gotten other students expelled was carefully omitted from any reports. A phone buzzed, then another. Soon, a wave of notifications rippled through the auditorium as parents reached for their devices. Patricia frowned at the breach of etiquette until her own phone lit up with a text from another board member. Your son is live streaming something. You need to see this. She opened the link, and her perfectly composed face went pale. On screen, Connor stood inches from a female student Patricia recognized as one of the scholarship kids. The girl was backed against a wall, surrounded by boys Patricia knew well. Boys whose parents donated generously to the school. Boys who were supposed to be at lacrosse practice right now. What's wrong? Patricia's husband Richard leaned over to look at her phone. His expression darkened as he recognized their son. What the hell is he doing? The audio was clear despite the phone's small speaker. Connor's voice carried across the meeting as more parents tuned in to the live stream. You people always think you're special, always playing the victim card. Well, guess what? In the real world, the one outside your little affirmative action bubble. You're nothing, and we're going to make sure you remember that. Principal Garrett had stopped mid-sentence, noticing the disturbance in his audience. Is everything all right? Michelle Roberts was already on her feet, her phone showing the same stream. We need to get to the STM building. Now. What's happening? Garrett demanded. Your star students are live streaming what looks like an assault about to happen. Michelle said loudly enough for everyone to hear. 4 boys surrounding 1 girl, and that girl is Sophia Mitchell. David Mitchell, who had been sitting in the back row because he'd gotten off work late, and his construction clothes made him self-conscious among the designer suits, shot to his feet. "That's my daughter. Where is she?" "Room B12, someone called out, reading the live stream comments. "They're in room B12. The auditorium erupted into chaos. Parents were shouting, some defending their sons, others horrified by what they were seeing. Principal Garrett was trying to restore order while simultaneously calling security. But David Mitchell wasn't waiting for protocol. He was already running, his work boots pounding against the polished floors as he sprinted toward the STM building. Richard Richardson grabbed his wife's arm. "We need to get there before—" "Before what?" Patricia snapped. "Before our son does something stupid on camera. Too late for that." On the live stream, Connor had moved even closer to Sophia. The comments were exploding. "Someone call 911. This is assault. Where are the teachers?" But also, "Put her in her place." About time someone stood up to these people. The ugly underbelly of Preston Heights privilege was on full display for the world to see. Back in room B12, Sophia had shifted her stance subtly. Her feet were shoulder-width apart now, her weight balanced on the balls of her feet. It was a fighter's stance, but casual enough that the boys didn't notice. They were too caught up in their performance, too drunk on power and audience approval to recognize the danger they were in. 500 viewers, Jake announced gleefully. "We're going viral, baby." "You know what I think?" Connor continued, his monologue building to whatever climax he had planned. "I think you need to apologize. To all of us. For making us look bad. For thinking you're better than us. For forgetting that this is our school, our world, and you're just a guest here." "I'm not apologizing for being smarter than you," Sophia said quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the live stream comments seemed to pause, waiting to see what would happen next. Connor's face flushed red, the same color it had turned when Sophia solved the calculus problem he couldn't. "What did you say?" "I said?" Sophia repeated, her voice gaining strength. "I'm not apologizing for being smarter than you, or for working harder, or for earning my place here while you were handed yours. And I'm definitely not apologizing for making you look bad when you do that just fine on your own." Lucas laughed nervously. "Yo, she's got jokes." But Connor wasn't laughing. His hands had curled into fists, and the mask of controlled superiority was slipping. "You think you're tough? Think those little boxing lessons make you hard. Let me show you what happens when you run your mouth in the real world." He reached for her, his hand aiming for her shoulder, probably intending to push her against the wall. It was the same entitled grab he'd used on dozens of girls before, the kind of touch that said he owned everything in his reach. But Sophia Mitchell was not most girls. Time seemed to slow as his hand approached. 3 years of training crystallized into a single moment of decision. She could let him touch her, push her, humiliate her on camera for hundreds of strangers. She could be the victim they expected her to be, the scholarship kid who knew her place, who understood that money and privilege trumped justice every time. Or she could be the fighter her father had trained her to be. Connor's hand was inches from her shoulder when everything changed. The live stream viewers saw it happen in real time, the moment prey became predator. Sophia's entire demeanor transformed. The scared teenage girl evaporated, replaced by someone who had spent countless hours perfecting the sweet science of controlled violence. She moved with liquid grace, her body flowing around Connor's grab like water around a stone. His hand closed on empty air as she pivoted, using his momentum against him for a heartbeat. Connor was off balance, confused. his brain trying to process how his victim had simply ceased to exist in the space where she'd been standing. "Don't touch me," Sophia said again, and this time her voice carried the weight of someone who could enforce that boundary. The live stream comments exploded. "Did you see that? She's trained. This just got interesting." Connor stumbled forward, catching himself against the wall where Sophia had been standing. When he turned around, his face was twisted with rage and humiliation. Being shown up in calculus was bad enough. Being physically outmaneuvered by a girl, a scholarship girl, in front of hundreds of viewers, that was unforgivable. "You little—" he charged at her, all pretense of control abandoned. But Sophia was ready. Her body moved on autopilot, 3 years of muscle memory taking over. She slipped his wild haymaker, ducked under his follow-up, and came up inside his guard. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. "You don't throw the first punch, but when they come for you, you make sure they remember why that was a mistake." The bathroom door burst open behind them. Lucas turned, expecting to see another student instead. He found himself face to face with David Mitchell, 6 feet of protective father who had just watched someone try to assault his daughter on live stream. But before David could take another step, before security could arrive, before any adult could intervene, Sophia Mitchell ended the fight with the precision of a surgeon and the power of someone who had been holding back for far too long. Her fist connected with Connor's solar plexus, driving the air from his lungs in a whoosh that the live stream picked up perfectly. He doubled over, gasping, and Sophia stepped back, her hands still up, still ready. "I told you," she said as Connor dropped to his knees. "Don't touch me." The live stream viewer count hit 1,000 just as the cavalry arrived. The STEM building room B12 looked like a crime scene. Connor Richardson remained on his knees, gasping for air, while Jake's phone continued streaming to over 1,000 viewers. Lucas stood frozen by the door, David Mitchell's presence behind him making escape impossible. Tommy Morrison had already fled, his courage evaporating the moment real consequences appeared. "Everyone stay exactly where you are." Principal Garrett's voice boomed as he pushed past David into the room. Behind him, a stream of parents, security officers, and faculty members crowded the hallway. Patricia Richardson shoved through them all, her designer heels clicking against the linoleum like a countdown to disaster. "Connor!" She rushed to her son, who was still struggling to breathe normally. "What did she do to you?" "Ma'am, please, step back." Officer Martinez, the school resource officer, entered with his hand on his radio. "This is now a crime scene." "Crime scene," Patricia's voice climbed an octave. "My son was assaulted. Arrest her." Michelle Roberts had her phone out, recording everything. "Your son and his friends live-streamed themselves attempting to assault a female student. 4 boys cornering 1 girl. That's conspiracy to commit assault, false imprisonment, and given some of the things said, possible hate crime charges." "That's ridiculous." Patricia helped Connor to his feet. "They were just talking." "Is that what you call it?" David Mitchell's voice was deadly quiet. He hadn't moved from the doorway, hadn't approached Connor, despite every paternal instinct screaming for vengeance. "I watched your son put his hands on my daughter. I watched him threaten her. All of it recorded for the world to see." Officer Martinez approached Jake, who was still holding his phone. "Son, I'm going to need that device as evidence." Jake looked to Connor for guidance, but Connor was too busy trying to look pitiful for his mother's benefit. The tough guy who had cornered Sophia was gone, replaced by a boy who had just learned that actions had consequences. "The live stream's still going," someone called from the hallway. 1,500 viewers now. "Turn it off," Principal Garrett ordered. "Actually, don't," Officer Martinez countermanded. "Let it record everything. Better for the investigation." Sophia stood in the center of the chaos. Her breathing controlled, her stance still ready despite the danger having passed. Her knuckles showed the faintest red from the single punch she'd thrown. But otherwise, she looked untouched. The contrast with Connor's disheveled state was stark. "Sophia," her father called softly. "You okay, baby girl?" She nodded, not trusting her voice yet. The adrenaline was starting to fade, leaving behind a trembling that she fought to control. In the ring. The fight ended when the bell rang. Here, she could feel the battle just beginning. "She attacked my son," Patricia announced to the room. "Everyone saw it. He was just trying to talk to her and she assaulted him." "Are you serious right now?" A voice from the crowd belonged to Ryan Chen, who had arrived with the mass of students drawn by the social media explosion. "We all watched the stream. Your son and his friends trapped her in an empty room and threatened her." "You don't understand the context," Patricia insisted. But her voice wavered as she noticed how many phones were pointed at her. "The context," Michelle Roberts said clearly, "is that your son has been reported for harassment 6 times this year. Each time, you've used your position to make those reports disappear. Well, they're all documented in my office, and I'll be happy to share them with the police." Connor finally found his voice. "She hit me. I want to press charges." "Interesting." Officer Martinez pulled out his notepad. "And would you like to explain why you were in an empty classroom with 3 other male students surrounding 1 female student? Why you physically grabbed her while your friend was live streaming what you specifically called teaching her a lesson?" The room fell silent, except for the whispers from the hallway where more students and parents had gathered. Someone said, 2,000 viewers. Another whispered, "It's trending on Twitter." Lucas finally spoke up, his voice cracking. Connor said we were just going to talk to her. Scare her a little. I didn't know he was going to." "Shut up," Connor snarled, then winced as the movement hurt his still tender abdomen. "No, please continue," Officer Martinez encouraged. "What exactly did Connor tell you the plan was?" Jake and Lucas exchanged glances. The reality of their situation was sinking in. This wasn't a prank gone wrong or boys being boys. They had live-streamed evidence of conspiracy to commit assault, and thousands of people had witnessed it. "I want a lawyer," Connor announced. "That's your right," Officer Martinez agreed. "You'll have plenty of time to call one from the station. All 4 of you are being detained pending investigation." "4," Patricia screeched. "You can't arrest my son. He's a minor. He has a lacrosse scholarship to Duke." "Had," someone corrected from the doorway. "Duke doesn't take students with assault charges." As Officer Martinez and the security team began the process of detaining the boys, more truth started spilling out. Students who had been too afraid to speak up before suddenly found their voices. "Connor threatened to ruin my college applications when I wouldn't write his essays for him," a quiet junior said. "Jake took pictures of girls in the locker room." Another added, "We reported it, but nothing happened." "Lucas pushed my little brother down the stairs for accidentally bumping into him." A freshman volunteered. Each confession was recorded by dozens of phones, creating an avalanche of evidence that no amount of money or influence could bury. Patricia Richardson's face grew paler with each revelation, her carefully constructed world of privilege and protection crumbling in real time. "Sophia," Principal Garrett approached cautiously, as if she might be dangerous. "Do you need medical attention?" She shook her head. "I'm fine." "You're more than fine." Ryan Chen stepped forward, admiration clear in his voice. "That was incredible. The way you moved, how you stayed calm. You could have destroyed all of them, but you showed restraint." "My daughter knows how to defend herself," David said proudly. "But more importantly, she knows when to stop. That's what separates self-defense from assault." Patricia seized on this. "So you admit she's trained to fight? This was premeditated." "Ma'am," Officer Martinez's patience was wearing thin. "Your son cornered a female student with 3 other boys. The fact that she knew how to defend herself doesn't make her the aggressor. It makes her fortunate." The next hour was a blur of statements, evidence collection, and phone calls. The live stream had been screen-recorded by hundreds of viewers, ensuring that even when Jake's phone was taken as evidence, the proof remained. News of the incident spread beyond Preston Heights, beyond their town, reaching social media activists and journalists who recognized the larger story within. By the time Sophia finally left the building with her father, the parking lot was full of news vans. Reporters shouted questions that David shielded her from, guiding her to his truck with protective determination. "You did good, baby," he said once they were safely inside. "Your mama would be proud." Sophia finally let the tears fall. "I didn't want to hit him, Dad, but he wouldn't stop. And there were so many of them, and—" "Shh." David pulled her into a hug. "You did exactly what you had to do. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what I taught you. Right, we don't start fights, but we finish them." Sophia completed, her voice muffled against his shoulder. That night, Sophia's phone never stopped buzzing. The video had gone viral, but not in the way she'd feared. Instead of being labeled a violent thug, she was being hailed as a hero. Sophia Strong began trending, with thousands of people sharing their own stories of standing up to bullies. Athletes reached out with support. Professional female boxers offered to train her. Civil rights organizations praised her restraint and composure under pressure. The narrative wasn't about a scholarship kid who got violent. It was about a young woman who defended herself against 4 attackers with minimal force and maximum dignity. But the biggest surprise came the next morning. Sophia had dreaded returning to school, certain she'd be ostracized or worse. Instead, she walked into a standing ovation. Students lined the hallways, applauding as she passed. Someone had made T-shirts overnight. "Preston Heights stands with Sophia," in her calculus class. Mr. Brennan started the lesson with an announcement. "Before we begin, I want to say something. What happened yesterday was a failure of every adult in this building, myself included. We knew what Connor and his friends were capable of, and we did nothing. Sophia, your courage in standing up to them has inspired us to do better, to be better." The changes came swiftly. Connor, Jake, and Lucas were expelled pending criminal charges. Patricia Richardson resigned from the school board in disgrace when an investigation revealed years of covered-up incidents involving her son. Tommy Morrison transferred schools after testifying against the others in exchange for leniency. But the most meaningful change came from the students themselves. A group of girls approached Sophia at lunch, led by a sophomore named Madison Taylor. "We were wondering," Madison said nervously, "if you'd consider teaching us. Self-defense. I mean, after seeing what you did, how you handled yourself, we want to learn." Sophia looked at the group: athletes and artists, popular kids and outcasts, all united by the desire to feel safe in their own school. "I'm not a teacher," Sophia protested. "You taught Connor a lesson he'll never forget." Someone called out, causing nervous laughter. "That's different." "Please," Madison interrupted. "My little sister starts here next year. I want her to know she can protect herself if she needs to." And so Sophia found herself in the gym after school, teaching basic defensive moves to a group that grew larger every day. She taught them footwork and situational awareness, but more importantly, she taught them confidence. The knowledge that they didn't have to be victims, that they had the right to defend their boundaries. Principal Garrett, eager to rehabilitate the school's image, made it an official program. A professional instructor was hired, but Sophia remained as a peer mentor. The girl who had been targeted for not knowing her place had carved out a new one as a leader and protector. 6 months later, Sophia stood in the same gymnasium where she now taught self-defense. But this time, she was in her cap and gown. Graduation day had arrived, and with it, a future that had once seemed impossible. "Before we present diplomas," Principal Garrett announced, "we have a special recognition. Sophia Mitchell. Please, come forward." As she walked across the stage, Sophia caught sight of her father in the audience, tears streaming down his face. Beside him sat her grandparents, her boxing coach, and Michelle Roberts, who had become a trusted mentor. "Sophia Mitchell," the principal continued, "has shown us what courage looks like. Not just physical courage, but the courage to stand up for what's right, to transform pain into purpose, to teach others that they too can be strong. It's my honor to announce that she has received a full scholarship to Yale University, where she will study biomedical engineering while competing on their boxing team." The applause was deafening as Sophia accepted her diploma and the Special Recognition Award. She thought about the girl who had walked into that empty classroom 6 months ago, scared but determined, outnumbered but not outmatched. "You don't throw the first punch," her father had taught her, "but when they come for you, you make sure they remember why that was a mistake." Connor Richardson, watching the ceremony on a smuggled phone from juvenile detention, certainly remembered. The video of his humiliation had been viewed over 10 million times, becoming a cautionary tale about privilege, prejudice, and the price of underestimating those you consider beneath you. But Sophia didn't think about Connor anymore. She thought about Madison's little sister, who would start Preston Heights knowing she had allies. She thought about the dozens of girls who now walked the halls with their heads high, knowing they could protect themselves. She thought about her mother, who hadn't lived to see this day, but whose strength lived on in her daughter. As she walked off the stage, diploma in hand, Sophia made eye contact with a freshman girl sitting in the audience, another scholarship kid, nervously clutching her program. Sophia smiled and nodded. A silent message, "You belong here, and if anyone tries to tell you otherwise, you know where to find me." The ceremony continued, but Sophia's mind was already on the future. Yale awaited, with its challenges and opportunities. The Olympic boxing trials were in 3 years. Medical school after that, following her mother's dream of healing others. But first, she had one more self-defense class to teach, because changing the world didn't happen in grand gestures. It happened one student at a time, one lesson at a time, one moment of courage inspiring the next. As the graduates tossed their caps into the air, Sophia Mitchell stood tall among them. She had found her place not by accepting the one others assigned her, but by creating her own. And in doing so, she had shown everyone at Preston Heights that real strength wasn't about keeping others down. It was about lifting them up. The local news interviewed her after the ceremony. The reporter asked what advice she'd give to students facing bullying. Sophia looked directly at the camera, knowing Connor would see this from his detention center, knowing thousands of scared kids would hear her words. Document everything. Tell trusted adults. Learn to protect yourself. Physically and emotionally. But most importantly, remember that bullies want you to believe you're alone. You're not. We're out here. We've survived, and we're ready to stand with you. As she walked away from the camera, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I'm a sophomore in Texas. Your video gave me courage to report my bullies. Thank you. Sophia smiled. One student at a time. One victory at a time. The revolution had begun. Their mansion, once the site of exclusive parties where the town's elite plotted their children's futures, now stood empty, a monument to fallen privilege. Jake Morrison cooperated fully with authorities, revealing years of coordinated harassment. His testimony exposed a culture of intimidation that reached into every corner of Preston Heights. In exchange for his cooperation, he received probation and mandatory counseling. The last anyone heard. He was volunteering at a youth center, teaching kids about the dangers of peer pressure. Lucas Bennett transferred to military school. His parents, hoping discipline might reform their son. Tommy Morrison wrote Sophia a letter of apology that she kept, but never answered. Some bridges, once burned, couldn't be rebuilt. But the most profound change came from the shadows. Students who had suffered in silence for years began finding their voices. The hallways that once echoed with fear now buzzed with solidarity. On her last day before leaving for Yale, Sophia stood in the gym where she'd taught so many to defend themselves. Madison Taylor, now leading the self-defense program, approached with tears in her eyes. "You changed everything," Madison said simply. Sophia smiled. "No, we changed everything. Together."